today, and I promised some people that we'd be back. So we were working on this horsefly trap over here, but it is so darn humid that it's all fogged up. So, you know, those stupid things can see it. So they're not running into the plexiglass. Here, let's look at it. I'll show you. It's wild. So much humidity right now. Right there. See? It's all white. You know, they're not going to run into that. So we've got a little dew point issue going on. So obviously that's an issue. So, hey, all right, there's somebody there. Howdy. If you're joining the chat, let me know where you're at. You know, what part of the world you're from, if you don't mind. Man, it's a hot one out here. Sorry. Whew. Oh, perfect. Look, there's a horsefly sitting on right there. See that giant horsefly? The horsefly is sitting on the horsefly trap. Great. So it's not working too well right now because of the humidity. I was just pointing out. See how foggy it is? It's crazy humid right now. Just pouring sweat at this time of night. Sun's down. The herd is also sweaty. So, at any rate, yeah, I'm just trying to come back and be more regular with our lives. You know, I've had a lot of folks ask and had a lot of questions about what we hear. Let me fix this a little bit. What we do, why we do it, the style of grazing management. Now, right now, the herd's kind of just spread out and everybody's picking through, finding some candy. But so what we do here with the herd is right now, it might look a little packed to you, but actually it's not. They're really spaced out. This is super low stock densities at the moment. Normally we'll have them in an area, well, let's see here. So see this wire here, this is what we call our front fence. So from there, well, right there, maybe back to, about where I'm standing, you can still see the fence there. They'd all be in there. Every one of them would be in that tight spot. Now, do we trap them in there? No, they elect to be in there on their own. So, and the reason that we allow them to have the open paddock behind and only just advance that forward fence is so you can see those horses over there, especially that giant white one. She's over 2,000 pounds. The cattle really need to be able to get out of the way of a horse. Horses can apply a lot of pressure to cattle. They will. If a horse wants that blade of grass, guess what? That horse is going to get that blade of grass. And the cow will have to yield. So if you have them in a tight area with the back fence and they can't go someplace, well, they're going to go through your hot fence, right? You're going to have a melee. So that is why we just advanced the fence. So let's go walk down here. I'll show you real quick kind of how we have a setup. It might seem super jinky to some folks because, you know, I think most people are used to or of the mindset, you know, large paddocks with permanent fencing, right? Barbed wire, field fence, something like that. Even rail fence. And you just turn your cattle out into it and they get to do what they want for, you know, the duration that they're in there. Maybe it's days, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months. That's not what we do. We move our cattle 4 times every single day. Unless something else happens, too much rain, we'll give them a larger paddock, move them less, maybe only once or twice daily moves. If we get a lot of rain, because you do not want high stock densities with a lot of rain, they will destroy your pasture. So this is where we started. Let's get better perspective. And it seems like they're way down there, but really, they're only 100 feet away from me where I'm standing right now. You know, the camera doesn't really give you much perspective. So this is where they started. And all we did, you'll see a fence there, running down there, and one right here. And it's only about 65 feet wide. This is what we call a cell. So we start them back in here tight. They mudded this up a little bit. We got 3 inches of rain last night, so it was a bit of a rodeo, man. I mean, it came down. We had some probably close to 2-inch an hour rainfall rates. You know, it would come and go, you know, gully washers. And so they pugged it a little bit. It'll be okay. We're going to have to keep them out of there, though, going forward. If we let them back to that and have access to it, they'll totally destroy it. When they're hot, they'll search for mud, and they'll create mud. They'll lay in mud to get cool, right? So we don't want them ruining the pasture. That's pugged enough. Pugging is their hooves stabbing holes in it. So at any rate, we started them back here, and we just moved that fence, just give them a little slice of pie, all the way down till we complete it. And you'll see, I mean, this is pretty good utilization right here. What we do in this grazing method, and it's called the Total Grazing Program. Oh, hey guys. Let's see. Hey guys, thanks so much for chiming in. Let's see. How'd you learn to do so much construction? Oh boy. I'll try not to get too sidetracked. Background in construction, multi-generational family construction businesses, carpenters, home builders, all that good stuff. And then I was kind of the black sheep. And I started a landscape business, my first business when I was 16, and kind of just went from there, so on and so forth. Had residential, commercial, landscape, excavation business, some light carpentry. Then I went in the oil patch for 8 years after the 2008 crash. And yeah, it was ugly. So we kind of lost everything. I was a stupid businessman. I tried to keep my employees around way too long, and keep them busy because they need to pay checks. They need to pay, they needed to feed their families too. And I just kind of dwindled myself, blah, blah, blah. So, nice guy, yeah. Stupid guy, yeah. So anyway, and went to the oil patch for 8 years. So we've just done a lot of different stuff, right? I've worked in the bush of Alaska at a heli ski lodge doing their underground construction, all that stuff. At any rate, we just have a long history of construction. So, but this is what I'm passionate about. Very, very passionate. Cattle, land management. Oh man, I love it. This is the stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning now. It really does. Sorry guys, I'll try to get some more comments. Home Depot hack. You'll have to remind me. Sorry, bud. I'd seriously just drop in there what you mean by that. We're from southern Missouri, Ozarks. Well, that's where we reside right now. We're from the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, and Alaska. So lived in Alaska for 8 years. Let's see. Sorry, trying to read through some comments, catching up with you guys here. All right. Okay. Interesting. Gonna get a birthday shout out. Yeah, absolutely. Hugh Jaso, is that right? Hugh, happy birthday. So, anyway, back to this. All right, so this is the Total Grazing Program. And so what we really focus on is high utilization. Now, how to get high utilization of your said pastures? Well, you get high utilization with high stocking densities. And what is high utilization? Oh, that's non-selective grazing. Now, most people don't have any idea what that is. There are 2 types of grazing and 2 types of grazing only, okay? Now, there's many subsets below each one of these, but 2 categories of grazing is selective and non-selective. Selective grazing is letting cattle go out there, horses, whatever, and selecting, obviously, what they want to eat. Think of horses and cattle as little kids, and you turn them loose in the grocery store and you say, have at it. What are they going to eat first? Let me know in the comments. What do you think a little kid is going to eat when they first go to a grocery store? Let's see if we get the right answer here. Okay. What's the last thing they're going to eat in the grocery store? Okay, so that really applies to livestock also. So if you just let them have their pick, they're going to take the best and reject the rest. And what happens when you do that, that's really good for the animal, okay? That is how you focus on individual animal performance. And so individual animal performance, oh, that's great for that animal. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that is good for the herd. And what I mean by that, or the business owner, the landowner, the rancher, that's the worst thing, right? So the number one determining factor of profitability on a ranch, and this is arguable, some people say it's something else, but is stocking rate, okay? Stocking rate, what is stocking rate? Stocking rate is the amount of animals you have on your land, okay? So now you can have too high of a stocking rate or too low of a stocking rate, but stocking rate refers to how many animals are on your land. So now there's something called carrying capacity. And carrying capacity is what your land's ability, or the ability your land has to carry said number of animals, okay? Well, You don't want to get those two confused. So sorry if I get a little sidetracked here. We got a lot of comments going, guys. So ciao, yeah. So the more animals you can put on your land, the more profit, in theory, you should make. Now, why do I say in theory? Well, if you're putting more animals on your land, but you're also having to put a lot of inputs into them, right? So you're buying grain, you're buying hay, all the wormers, all the sprays, all the injections. Man, it all adds up. Now, I know a lot of guys will argue and say, oh, that only costs $5, and that's only $10, and that's only $11. Only $250 a year per animal for hay. Well, that starts adding up pretty fast, especially when you're operating on a very small profit margin. So what this system, yeah, 529, that's our worst cow there. She just, so that's something else. This program, boy, the cream will rise to the top rapidly in your herd. You will find out really, really fast who's your best, who's your worst. Okay, anyway, I'm very easily distracted. ADHD here, man. I'm like, oh, butterfly. So the more animals you can carry with the less inputs, right? Hey, that's the recipe for profitability. So if you can take and harvest more grass per square foot, per yard, per acre, whatever, well, do you think you're gonna be more profitable? Well, yeah, right? So you need to be able to grow a lot more grass, but just because you grow the grass doesn't mean the cattle are necessarily gonna eat it, because you might be selective grazing. There's my dogs freaking out. Oh, anybody want some dogs? I got some extras. Oh, there, excuse me for a second. No. Oh, I hope Mike, run them over. Oh, they're so obnoxious. Okay, so you have to lower your inputs, right? Okay, so how do you lower your inputs? Make your cattle eat more of the grass that's available. Don't let them just pick through it. So what also happens with selective grazing is that you're gonna take and be favoring the non-desirables, and you're going to be impeding every grass, every forb, legume that you want. Why? Well, because you're letting them go in and say, okay, that right there is what they love to eat, and you're gonna pick that and you're gonna take it. But the weeds around it, you're gonna leave. Well, okay, so then you move out of that paddock and you go on to the next one, you move around. When you come back, the stuff that they rejected the first time, do you think it's gonna be more or less palatable? As it's aged, as it's oxidized, as it's gotten more lignified, as it's less tasty, it's higher in fiber. No, they're gonna really reject it now. So what you'll see with selective grazing, and it's really easy to determine if someone's selectively grazed, not just by looking at the herd and their stocking density, but you can just look at a field and I can tell you if that field's been selectively grazed or not, right? Well, there's gonna be bushes and brambles and junk and weeds and crap left behind, and the grass is all gonna be mowed down real low. Plus, you're gonna see these nice, big, fat, bushy clumps of really green, super tall, robust grass. Well, why is that? Well, how that starts is kind of a snowball effect. So a cow takes a crap, and then they're not so prone or want to go up and eat around that. This is just one example. They don't want to, eat the stuff they just took a dump on. So they kind of stay away from it just a little bit, right? And then you move out, move on. So that grass got spared. It did not get eaten. It did not get taken down. So the next time you come back through, the same rule applies, what we just talked about. It's got a chance to rest a really long time, get really big, really, really healthy and happy, but very unpalatable. So they reject it again. And that clump grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And pretty soon you see these fields that are just these islands of tall grass with budding green grass in between them, with a smattering of weeds and non-desirables. Well, that is what this system, it's called the Total Grazing System, and it's taught by a man named Jim Elizondo. He's a crazy Mexican rancher, and the guy is highly intelligent, and it's hard to keep up with him. The guy knows his stuff. That's who I'm learning this from. And I'll tell you what, everything on our land has absolutely transformed in 1 year. I say 1 year, nay, not even a year. We started intentionally practicing this method, this program, this spring, early, right at green up. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd gleaned a bunch of stuff from the internet as much as I could. I'd watched, every every video and every speaking engagement I could find, him and Johann Zeitzman. And I was just gleaning what I could. So then finally decided, well, I know at least enough to get going. So we started going, but there was a lot of holes that, I was still like, oh, what do I do in this situation, that situation? So just took the dive and started talking to Jim, and he is so gracious to have been, he agreed to hold my hand through this whole process. And so he is teaching me. I am getting direct access to him, which you can also if you want to learn how to graze like this. So he's got a bunch of different programs. He has this group called Fat Wallet Ranchers that's on Facebook. You can join that, and there's chats, and there's a bunch of other people that are in it. And it's a really neat community that you can take and bounce stuff off others. And anyway, so yes, it's a virtual community of other crazy grazers. So anyway, so we go ahead and implement this where we non-selectively graze. We put them in really high stock densities when we can. We use ultra high stock densities when possible, all the way up to 1 million pounds per acre. Now, do we always use 1 million pounds per acre? Absolutely not. We've only done that once this year. Our upper limit is about 800,000 pounds, give or take, stock density per acre. And why is that? Well, the higher your stocking density, the higher your consumption. The higher your consumption, the more of the undesirable parts of the plant they're going to consume, i.e. lower in energy, lower in protein. So their performance, their condition, performance, you'll hear people in the animal world say performance, their body condition will suffer, okay? So let's look at an example here of really good body condition. Oh, we got a dog fight. More damn dogs. So let's look at 511 here. I'm gonna hold the camera more like this. So here's 511. And you can see she's round. She's real round. Here's 1903. She's excellent condition, excellent. 506, right here, this girl. She is likely the best animal in our herd. And the reason I said that is that she kept the best body condition with the suckling in our highest stocking densities. 511 was right with her. And where is she? Oh, we got another fatty around here. Look at them horse flies. Those things are terrible. Look at our bull. He's got excellent condition. Right. They're all doing really good on this now. Let's go find that really puny cow here. I'll show you what I mean by. Now, I say puny. She's still doing okay. Don't get me wrong. She's not a throwaway, but she can't hold a candle to these better genetics. And so to use this system appropriately and to its full potential, you've got to have adapted genetics. Adapted genetics. Oh, great. Looks like we sprung a leak in our hose over here. Great. Something else I get to work on tonight. Anyway, right here we go. This is a perfect look at her. See that? You can see her top line. You can see some spine. You can see some hips. She's not really full. She's not staying super fat. Well, that's also because she is miniature. She is a tiny, tiny little cow. I mean, I bet you she only goes 600. I mean, she's like a Dexter. She's tiny. She's like maybe 600 pounds, and she has this great, big, enormous bull calf that she's raising. So, she's got that calf constantly suckling on her. She's small, and she just can't convert enough grass into butterfat and also maintain her own condition. So those are some of the things that happen. So I talk about adapted genetics. How do you end up with adapted genetics? Well, you can just outright buy them. You can go buy a herd. You can spend a boatload of money and go spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on buying adapted genetics. Now, good luck. They're really hard to come by. When people get them, they almost have to die. And their kids, their inheritors, or don't want them. It's pretty hard because most people work on these for decades, and I mean decades, a whole lifetime, to develop the best genetics for their type of management. I mean, look at this bull calf right here. He's just a beauty. And that's what we get. Right? No, we just showed you some that aren't good. Some are excellent, but none of them are, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say none of them are over the moon amazing. Actually, I think we have a few that are pretty top notch. And that's why we're keeping bulls out of them. So we will be keeping our best bull calves out of our best cows. And, you know, people say, well, you get a good bull and you leave them in your herd for years and years. And you can actually breed a bull to his daughters. You just can't breed a bull to his mother. That's where you get problems. So, but the only thing is, if you actually have a really good bull, if you have really top bull, he should make a son that's better than him in a couple generations, if not right out of the gate. So it doesn't really behoove you to continue to keep him in your herd because you've now crossed him. And even though it's possibly in the same breed of animals, there's some outside influences in genetics, and you get hybrid vigor, right? Ooh, hybrid vigor. Hybrid vigor is just that. You know, it's like a dog. You know, people say, they say a mutt. Well, that's a cross, right? It's a very diverse genetic coding. And it just makes them more robust. That's why mutts almost never have hip dysplasia, blindness issues, all this stuff that purebreds do, right? They've been so singularly bred for one trait that they've missed out on all the rest of the stuff. And so now you know, humans are idiots. We breed for all the wrong things, you know. Color. Oh, color. Yeah, color is really important. We breed for the wrong things instead of the right things, you know, especially in the cattle world. We should be breeding for things like early sexual maturity. We should be breeding for things like low birth weights during calving. We should be breeding for easy fleshing, right? We should be breeding for slightly smaller frame. Why? Because smaller framed animals flesh easier. Why? Well, they do that because they have a higher relative feed intake. So the Jacoby, what's up? What's up? So relative intake, right? The smaller the animal, this is pretty much universal across the whole animal kingdom. There might be a few rare exceptions, but, oh, hey, pest, what are you doing? Oh, you want me to kill that fly? Here, let me get it. Oh, I wasn't fast enough. Typically, like I said, it's almost completely universal. The smaller the animal, the more feed that they're going to take in per pound or per unit of body weight. So if you get a little bit smaller cow, a little shorter leg, a bigger gut, well, what's their gut? That's their engine, right? I mean, what's a cow? Well, it's a ruminant. So what does it do? It takes in feed and it goes into this compartment, a chamber of its, you know, 4 chambers of its stomach, and it's full of life. It's full of bugs. It's full of microbiology. And the bigger that area is for the feed to go into, the bigger engine it has, right? So that's what you want. You want a big gut, shorter legs, just kind of beach ball, like little fat guys, right? Those ones flesh easy. They just really do. Plus, it's a little bit smaller frame. So you get that smaller frame, high relative feed intake. Those things all start coming together to help make this system work. And what is the system again? Total Grazing Program. What is it we do? We take as much grass as we can possibly take every grazing pass, and hopefully not at the peril of your herd. You have to take care of your herd first. Most important. You cannot lose animal condition. If you lose too much condition, you're not going to breed back. You're going to be susceptible to disease, parasite, right? So natural immunity is incredibly important in your herd. You can take and give them all the vaccines you want and dewormers and all this stuff, or you can really, really focus on true health, actual health, real vigor, right? And if an animal is extremely healthy because it has a very balanced ration, you're not scouring it, you're not starving it with not enough protein and energy, enough starches, sugars. Well, they're going to be robust. They're going to be able to fight off infection and parasites. They're going to be able to, well, I shouldn't even say fight off parasites, right? There's this idea that you have parasites or you don't have parasites in your herd. No, all animals, everything has parasites in it. We have parasites in us. It's how you handle that parasite load. So if your body can't keep that parasite load in check, especially in ruminants, things that eat off the ground, man, they just pick up parasites like crazy. If you can't keep that parasite load in check, they're done. They're going to die, right? So, you know, in nature, the occurs, you know, what people like to harp on the Bible. If they got parasites and worms, well, how did they survive? They didn't. They died. They died. There was no dude hanging out with a shot or a drench and trying to. So, what's happened through modern technology, we have given all these animals band-aids and we've totally ruined them. You know, people will say, I've heard a lot of guys say, until you've raised corrientes, you don't realize how bad man has screwed up cattle. And what I mean by that statement is, and there's other like land race breeds, very, very similar. Mashona being actually probably one of the top of the food chain when it comes to that. We have, in the improved breeds, improved cattle, right? We've improved them so much that they die for all kinds of reasons. We've bred for the wrong things. So the best way to improve an improved breed is by breeding up with an unimproved breed. That's your original breeds. Those are the land race breeds, right? So let's see. Oh, is something going on already? Oh, sorry guys, I'm getting off. I'm like, brrr. So yes, you want to improve breeds with unimproved. Let's talk about that. So if you are managing intensively your herd, especially in the green up, the early spring season, when most ranchers, at least in my limited experience and through observation, I'm no scientist here, but most ranchers scour their cattle early in the spring, okay? And they scour them so much, I think that they most likely, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them actually give their cattle RA, ruminal acidosis. They actually change the pH of the rumen so much that they end up killing a lot of the biology in the gut because of way too high of protein, and there's not enough fiber, and that stuff just bad stuff happens. It actually can change, I believe it changes the pH of their bodily fluids. So anyways, if you kill the gut, kill a lot of the bugs that are in the gut. That's a serious problem, especially for cattle, because it's said that up to, or even more than 80% of their immunity actually comes from their gut. There's a lot of science actually that's pointing more of that toward humans too, that we don't really think too much about gut health. We just always think about everything else, your heart and your liver and all this stuff. But your gut really is unbelievably important, right? Again, that's the powerhouse. That's the engine. Hey girl, there's 970. She can be a pest. She loves a good scratching. And her baby, 971, also known as Sweetie, is internet famous. she's very popular. She's a little pest, but she's busy eating. Anyway, back to the gut. So if you're giving him way too much green early in the season and you don't have, stop rubbing on me, a balanced ration, you're going to give him health issues. So this system allows you not to do that, because what happens in spring, most guys, they're completely out of everything, right? And they're tired of feeding hay. They've fed hay all winter. It's expensive. They're tired of that crap. They see some green stuff out there and they're like, yeah, turn the cattle out. Let's get them out there. Boom. Well, when grass is that tall, that is rocket fuel, man. You do not want to be grazing that. You sure as hell don't want to be grazing with horses. You will founder them. You will ruin a good horse real fast. You can founder cattle too. So with this system, you take half land and you let it rest the whole year. And I know that sounds crazy. This is the craziest part about this whole system that didn't really sink in with me. I wasn't understanding it. And I just called BS. I was like, no way. No way. How can I rest half of my land, not touch it at all, and end up with more productivity than using all my land? Didn't make any sense. Well, that goes back to the high utilization. High utilization allows you to move across your land so freaking slow, because you're eating so much of the available forage instead of just tip grazing, that take a third, trample a third, leave a third. That stuff is for the birds, man. I'm telling you, That is the biggest, can I say this? It's bullshit, okay? We did it. We did it, and it doesn't work. I don't care what those guys say. I'm so sick of hearing it. I've heard it forever and ever. And we were doing it, and we were failing. And our land was not improving. They keep telling you to do that stuff. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Slow down and make your animals eat as much as they can possibly consume without hurting their body condition. You don't want to lose conditioning. When you do that, you're going to rest your land, and your plants are going to get to be very mature. And that's how you actually put carbon in the soil, not trampling this crap on top where they always talk about, oh, we're going to feed the soil from the surface. Here's a blade of grass. If I leave that blade of grass, that's going to grow me 2 blades of grass next year. Nope. Those guys that all say that, their inner plant spacing is getting really, really wide, and they aren't yielding hardly crap. Their carrying capacities, the best I've seen. Now, if somebody knows somebody else out there, go for it. Tell me, put me in my place. But I've not seen a single person that selectively grazes that has it better than a 2.5 to 1 carrying capacity without additional inputs. Not seen it anywhere, haven't even heard of it. But there are guys doing the total grazing system that are right knocking on the door of a 1-to-1 carrying capacity. That means one animal or one unit, 1,000-pound unit for 1 acre of land, year-round grazing, no inputs. Well, all those big talking heads that are the experts, they can't do that. Put it to them, ask, what can you actually carry on your land? You're going to find out real fast that they're not going to want to answer, because they know that this stuff, or they're starting to get an inkling that this stuff actually works better. Well, the problem is they've all written the books and they've been preaching this stuff for 20 years. There's nothing else, no other way, and they're calling everybody that does this stupid. Okay, I'm stupid. I've increased my forage by, on average, 5 times this year. 5 times over last year. Now, comparing apples to apples, spring to spring to spring. Last 3 years, similar rainfall in the spring. Now, this year is very different. We had a lot more rain through the summer, and the 2 prior years was very droughty. So I'm not considering that. But just up to June 1st, last 3 years, we grew way more forage. So when you rest your land, half of it, and you only actively graze half of it, you're stockpiling that other half for all your winter forage. And you can literally stockpile like 16,000 pounds of dry matter forage per acre. It's insane. Now, it might take a few years to get to that point. But if you do that, come spring, when everybody else is panicking because they have no forage, and they're sick of, well, I shouldn't say no forage, they're sick of feeding hay, and they start seeing a little bit of grass, what do? They put them out there and scour them. So this system allows you to go, no, that grass isn't quite ready yet. Let's just keep grazing stockpile. Get out there, start grazing that stuff when it's ready to be grazed and the grass is recovered. You get out there and start grazing it. And if you somehow run into drought, or you have a problem and you're kind of running out of your active grazing areas, you just shoot them right over, put them on your stockpile, let them eat on that for a while. When the rains come back, your active grazing fields green back up, vegetate, you go back to them. You always have emergency rations on hand, guys. It's always there. You always have emergency ration. We have, I think, officially, finally, have grazed just a little more than half of our ranch this year. Total acreage covered. Now, does that mean that we've eaten half of all the land? No, we ate or grazed and then regrazed one area. But then now I've just been trudging forward in all of our untouched, ungrazed stuff, which is not typically how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to graze actively. Graze, rest, come back, graze, rest, come back, because that gives you, it's the best grass, has the highest energy, yada, yada. Well, the reason we're doing what we're doing and just trudging forward through that season-long stockpile, we haven't grazed this year yet, is because we've had enough rain. There's good enough grasses coming up in there with high enough energy, high enough protein, that the animals are doing fine. And what it's allowing us to do is not go graze the areas where we have native tall prairie can't even talk. Native tall, I can't even talk, boy. They're warm season grasses. They're from the tall prairie grass family. So we have big blue stem. Little blue stem doesn't really count, but little blue, big blue. We haven't seen eastern gamma grass yet. We have yellow Indian grass showing up and switchgrass. So that's crazy. That's amazing. That's awesome. You want that stuff on your land. you won't end up with the summer slump that everybody talks about, right? If you have a monocrop or damn near monocrop of cool seasons, i.e. mostly fescue, that's, you know, infected with endophyte, come summer, when your cool season grasses turn off, well, what happens? You have toxic for them to eat and nothing really else. So what ends up happening? You put a ton of heat on your cattle because endophyte raises their internal body temperature, puts them under a ton of stress, and so they eat less. Plus, you're not in vegetative, optimal growing conditions, and so you're not growing grass. The grass that is there is actually poisoned, and your cattle eat less, and they're hotter, and the fiber of the grasses are higher, so it makes it even hotter again when they ruminate. I mean, it's just a mess. So if you can have actively vegetating grasses in summer, instead of basically growing a monocrop of cool seasons, and I say monocrop because cool season, warm season, C3, C4s, you're just gonna your herd, you're going to have less stress on you. You're going to not be freaking out if you're going to be able to afford grass come, or not grass, hay. The last 2 years, I'm not going to lie, I absolutely hated when winter was coming. I was like, man, am I going to have enough hay? Am I not going to have enough hay? And you're always in a situation where you buy too much or not enough. That's just about the way it works. It's just almost impossible to get just the right amount of hay. So if you run out of hay, that's real expensive because then you have to buy it at peak price of the season. And if you don't run out of hay and you have extra, well, maybe you'll feed it next year. Maybe it'll be worth feeding, but most likely the nutrition of it is so low, you might as well just be feeding them straw. So you're going to have to supplement it with protein anyway. So anyway, huge word salad. I've just run my neck almost nonstop. It's kind of getting dark. There's too much of this to get out and not enough time, but it is amazing, guys. I'm telling you, if you're a grazer, even if you only have a few animals, you can learn to manage your land so much more efficient, grow so much more grass, and have more stress, and not have to buy all these damn inputs. We feed grass. That's what we feed, grass. Now, if we get in a position where we don't have enough protein in our grass, we will supplement with like soybean meal or cottonseed meal. No problem. No big deal. You give them a pound or two of that a day. Not every day. You don't have to typically. I did a little bit of experimentation with it earlier this year when we were at really high utilization, like 90, 95%. Crazy. I mean, we were just eating it to nothing. It was stubble, like that tall, nothing left. And, their conditions started suffering a little bit. You got to wash their manure. Manure stacks up. So once that started happening, I gave them a little bit of protein every other day, like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 pounds per animal. Their condition returned, and their manure pats leveled out. It's really easy to watch. It's really, really easy to know what's going on inside your animal if you know how to score their manure. You got to just look that perfect turd, right? You got to be a turdologist. So you just look at that manure. It needs to be runny, not like this one. Now, see, this is kind of funny. I keep finding some of these every once in a while. See that thing? It's like a big ass cinnamon roll. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want them kind of a little. You want them a little runny. I'll show you a good one. There you go. That's beautiful. That's like picture perfect. That's money. And I mean literally, that's money. If they're looking like that, your cattle are putting on good condition. They're growing, they're fatting. If you can keep their manure looking like that, you're on the right track. So, just wash the manure, watch their body condition, and graze the hell out of it. Graze it. Overgrazing only happens due to coming back and regrazing a plant that has not been recovered. It is not the severity of the graze itself. It's all about duration. If you sit on a pasture and graze it off, and you sit there for an additional 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 days, 2 weeks, a month, every time that grass tries to come back, it's really palatable. It's all straight sugar pretty much. Carbohydrates being pushed up out of the roots, and they come back and graze that off. Boom, guess what? You just put your root and crown of your plant in a deficit. Then it grows back again. They graze it off. And they keep doing that until the plant dies. So it's really important to not leave your cattle. We'll go up to 4 days, but typically people say not more than 72 hours. Oh, Bruno's giving us a show, guys. There you go. That's a perfect manure. Hope you're not squeamish. That's a perfect manure. Like, see the consistency? It's like pancake batter. It's perfect. Then you really know. I'm good. Oh, hear it? That's a good sound. You can literally just hear it. You know what to, the sound of good manure, which means they're going to have good conditions. So anyway, I'm going to shut up here in a minute. I'm going to let you guys enjoy. I'm just going to show you around. It's actually getting dark, and I'm really blown away how good this camera is still picking up the light. So it's probably going to get a little grainy on you. If you guys want to know more, so in the description of this video, there are all the links to Jim's stuff, Real Wealth Ranching, and the Total Grazing Program. Even if you're just curious, check him out on Facebook, Real Wealth Ranching. And he's got videos, and it's just, you know, he gives you little tidbits here and there, and it's great. It's really, really been a huge, huge game changer for us. I just don't have to stress about, hey, we have, I'm going to keep saying this in all these videos, all these lives. You guys are going to get tired of it. Oh, well. Our little herd here takes about 9,500 cow days. That's a ration, a measurement of forage per year. Okay, about 9,500. I did a forage survey that's been a month ago. I need to do another one. And at that time, we had about 14,000 cow days of forage. What is that? Come on, man, that's crazy. That's like a year and a half of grass in front of us. It's actually caused a problem for us because I have to get that grass off. Like, you can't just leave it indefinitely. It actually starts killing the growth points, and your grass starts spreading apart and getting greater or wider interplant spacing. So we don't want that. So, you know, the right solution to this problem is more cattle, more horses, more mouths. But if a guy isn't independently wealthy and can't just go chunk out another 50K, buy a few more head, or a couple 100K, depending on how big your operation is, you kind of have to audible. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna do. Big, tall, massive stockpile. You can't just mow it. If you just mow it and leave it, you will snuff everything out, right? It's kind of like that. Those guys that are, oh, let's surface feed the soil. Let's trample it all down. You're gonna feed your soil. What you do is you trample all that stuff down and you snuff out anything that's trying to come in. Seedling germination, tillering of plants, growth points, all that stuff. It's not getting the sunlight that it needs. So you got to stop trampling all that grass down on the surface in a big fat mat. Now, do we have exposed dirt here? No, we're not eating it to the dirt, guys. And so there are people that say that about the total grazing. Oh, you're going to leave it exposed. And if you let the sun directly hit the dirt, it's going to kill everything. Well, if you have exposed dirt, it can kill stuff at the surface. I'm not going to lie. And what I mean by at the surface, what it can kill is, you know, microbial life, some insects. It can get too hot. It can cap, it can crust, it can do some terrible stuff. Not stuff you really, really want. But when you have really mature plants, especially native, excuse me, I thought I heard something. Your native warm season grasses, big blue stem, switchgrass, those things can get roots that are like 15, 20 feet deep. Those are what's putting massive amounts of root exudates into your soil. That's what's truly building the humus in your soil. So if you can build humus in your soil, that's where your true fertility comes from. Not a bunch of additions. Liquid carbon pathway, boom, goes into the soil from mature plants. So that's what we focus on here. We don't try and feed from the surface. Most of that stuff oxidizes and volatilizes right into the atmosphere. It's just not worth it. You're better off to grow more plants per square foot than trying to feed the surface of the soil. You're better to let your plants get closer together, way more growth points, and you're gonna have more total yield. It's just the way it works, right? And the more roots you have in the ground, the faster you're gonna build your humus. So it's real simple. It was hard for me to comprehend at first because I had to unlearn a bunch of stuff that I thought I had learned through all the other talking heads. So that's it. That's about it. It's getting pretty dark. I know I said I'd shut up, but man, I have a hard time doing that. Okay, here, really, for real. I'm just gonna let you guys look for a minute. Don't worry, I didn't leave you. All right, so if anybody's got any last minute questions, hey, Jacoby, have a good one, buddy. Have a good one. I got to actually reach out to you and talk to you here one of these days here soon. Let's go back. Oh man, you guys blew me up. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you. You know, likes are so important to content creators. If anybody is still on here, if you guys can give us a like, man, that's huge. That's probably the most important thing people can do. If you gained anything from this video, we really appreciate it, man. It's like, and if you want to hear more crazy talk from a crazy guy about cow crap, give us a follow. That's what I do, man. I just start talking about crap and horses and cattle, and whoo, I go nuts. So, but I love it. I'm passionate about it. It's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my entire life. Literally. I love my family. I've had some amazing experiences. I've been all over the place. I've done some crazy stuff, flown in helicopters, been on glaciers, seen the northern lights, been in the Arctic oil field, been offshore, seen polar bears out my pickup window, muskox. I mean, I've done and seen a lot of cool stuff. But there's a lot of reward that comes from improving the land and low stress stockmanship. I love that my cattle, I don't know that they love me, but you know what? I love that I can do that. I love that this girl isn't scared of me. I love that she's as stress-free as she can be. You know, even our animals that someday are going to be food, you know, that we're going to take and butcher, I still treat them just like this, you know. We try not to name them, damn it. It sucks. But, you know, their numbers, their ear tags become their name. So this is known as 283, and she's a hell of a good cow. She's got good condition. She gave us a beautiful calf. She's got a wonderful temperament, if you couldn't tell. My 2-year-old granddaughter has sat on her back. I mean, come on. It's crazy, right? They're so low stress. They're great animals. They're beautiful animals. These are South Pole cattle, if you wanted to know. I don't know if anybody asked. Sorry. I'm really bad about looking at the comments sometimes. I just run my neck so fast. I can't hardly keep up. Sorry, guys. I'm scrolling through here. Harassment. What am I harassing? Yes. Cicadas are making some noise. You know, they weren't near as bad as we were expecting them to, with all this horror story of, oh, you know, every 470 million years these cicadas come out like this or whatever. Everybody was really talking about, you know, like another end time. It's just cicadas like last year. You know, they're noisy. That's what they do. So, do you know the difference between male and female? Probably have a pretty good idea. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, bale it. We could hay it. The only thing is, if we do hay that stockpile ground we were talking about, if we do to nutrient cycle there, because we don't use synthetic fertilizers, we would have to feed it back on that same field, right? So we would have to have a need to feed it. So I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't want to take hay off my ground, because when you hay, you bale it and you ship it off, you're selling your fertility, your nutrients to somebody else, right? And you worked hard for that. So you want to keep that on your land. You know, it's the nutrient cycle is just like the water cycle, just like the carbon cycle. It's all very important. And think of your land as like a battery, and it needs to charge, right? It needs to accumulate energy. And once your battery is charged, do you want to decharge it and just give it all that energy away? No, you need to keep it, right? So that's kind of, you know, the theory, the method behind it. So I don't know. We're going to cross that bridge when we get there about baling, if we have to. I just don't know. I might try and bring in somebody else's cattle, you know, when they run out of forage, because this has been a great year. A lot of people have grown a lot of grass, but from the looks of it, they're going to still run out. They'll be feeding hay. So we'll have an abundance of stockpile. Especially, that doesn't even include 63 acres across the other side of the fence that my kids bought. that we have to take in consideration about all this stuff, you know? So it's like, man, we have forage coming out our ears. And that, I mean, that's bad over there. It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of grazing. It needs calcium. It needs some stuff to get it to where it needs to be. But there's still a lot of grass over there. And there's copious amounts of big blue stem, little blue stem coming in. So, you know, great things. So we'll have to correct the pH of the soil to start getting cool seasons to come in. That's something, you know, that's something great about warm season grasses that you guys need to understand, that people are constantly altering and changing their soil biology or chemistry to make it so much more, what the heck is that? To make it so much more hospitable. Oh, big word again. It's getting late. I'm stupid. Hospitable for cool season grasses because they do not like acidic soil. So, you know, think a little more along the lines of, especially if you're starting a paddock or pasture and you have really acid soil, you're in an area like us, really think about more warm seasons, right? Let them start helping build that carbon. Let them rest a long time. And once you start building that carbon, you're gonna have more fertility. It's gonna be so much easier to correct with more carbon. You know, it all just starts coming into focus. When everything starts firing on all cylinders, you start seeing it. And we're starting to see it. We really, really are. You know, the last 2 years, we were like, yay, it's better than what it was, but it still kind of sucks. And we're still kind of running out of grass, and we don't have that many animals, and man, this sucks, right? Well, we're not doing that now. It's just coming out our ears, folks. The stuff works. Check out the links if you're interested. If not, just continue listening to this crazy person talk. So, at any rate, I'm gonna let you guys go. I really appreciate y'all getting on here and joining me for this evening. And we're gonna be out here again tomorrow. I'm live in the morning. I'm gonna try and do as many lives as I can, and I'm gonna try and get to where not gonna happen. I'm gonna flatten my. So anyway, see you guys. Thanks a lot. Last, anybody else? Sorry. Spanish? No? Is that Spanish? I think that's Spanish. Fernando. Let's see. I'd have to use a translator, bud. I don't speak Spanish fluently at all. Unless that's Portuguese. Sorry, bud. Oh dear, the male-female comment. Yeah. Well, no, I don't identify as anything. I am what I am. So I kind of think I have a pretty good grasp on male-female, especially out there. Yeah, we know what does the pitching and what does the catching. So you guys have a good night. We'll talk to you later.